Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm reviewing Megapulse, a game shortly or soon to be or currently one of those things on Kickstarter, a link in the description down below. Now, this is a prototype. Everything you see before you, art, graphics, all those things, and of course, rules are all subject to change. But with that said, let's go ahead and talk about this game. And starting off, bare minimum, this is a racing game. A racing game with collisions and rockets and shooting and mines on the board and upgrading your cars, upgrading the way you race through the game. This is basically your typical Mario Kart genre in a board game, which we've seen a bunch of recently. We've had Tiny Turbo Cars, we had Death Roads All-Stars, we've had a bunch of these racing, punchy, Fast and Furious style games, and Megapulse is no exception in that genre. If anything, it might be the fastest, punchiest, I can't think of another verb there, of the three of those games, but Megapulse is a game where you are going to have your hand of cards and you're going to be selecting from those cards. So the ultimate goal is to determine a number of laps, generally between 2 or 3 laps, although you can definitely have 1-lap races, although you're not going to get the full experience, and you can definitely have more, or however many laps as you want, although more than 3, and I'd caution you might be signing up for a longer game night than this game may be good for. But that said, you're going to determine a number of laps, let's say 2 or 3 laps. Then you'll pick the map from a book full of maps, or of course create your own, which I do recommend using 1 or 2 pre-constructed laps first, because then you'll have an idea of what kinds of tiles fit together and when you're signing up for a whole lot of slow movement depending on the board state. But either way, pick your count of laps, pick your map or build your map, and then start playing. And the turn structure in this game basically comes down to players selecting 2 cards from their hand of cards. You're all going to start with mostly the same deck. The card you choose, the rider you choose, will add 1 specific card to your deck that is slightly different, slightly better than your opponent's. From there, you take your cards and you go ahead and put them down. So for instance, let's say I'll go ahead and put down, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll put down this card over here and this card over here. Let's do it. Okay, great. All of us are going to select our cards at the same time, and then we'll reveal the cards and then follow the little player aid as far as the resolution of the cards. Now, first and foremost, you'll resolve any instantaneous cards. Any cards that have that little lightning bolt green symbol get resolved first and foremost. You go through all the players in turn order, resolving those lightning bolt cards. From there, you resolve the regular cards, which are going to be most of your plays, although the game will get fast and punchy, and those lightning bolts will be very situationally played as the game progresses. But for instance, let's take these basic cards, and you can resolve them in any order, as well as executing your racing, your speed, or alternatively repairing your vehicle, which will be relevant as your vehicle slowly gets destroyed. But taking the most basic action, over here, I can move sideways with one of my vehicles. I can move sideways 2, as well as moving up 1. So let's see how that plays out as blue. So I'm going to move sideways 2, and I'm going to move sideways this way. So my first movement sideways will put me on a little boost pad, which will immediately shoot me up 1. My second move sideways will again put me on a boost pad, because you immediately interrupt the sideways movement to execute any pads you're on. So my second move sideways moves me from here to here, where I again boost up 1 directly. The problem is I'm now at the edge of the track, and whenever you're on a curve, you're slowly trying to get into the walls, which is unfortunate because now I have to drive 1 space forward, and driving a space forward is going to result in me colliding, and then hitting this boost pad, and then colliding again, making me take 2 damage on my vehicle, which I'll go ahead and slowly remove my vehicle, doing, well, that over there. That's the good news. Bad news is still coming, because now we're going to execute Rapid Shift. Rapid Shift will allow me to either move my speed down or move my speed up. Well, we'll see how that plays out. Given the fact that I'm going to keep colliding into walls, I'm going to move my speed down to 0, which is very unfortunate. And then go ahead and take 1 grip movement forward. Grip movement, that little magnet symbol, basically means that I get to ignore the traction of going around a corner. And so I take 1 space forward, and unfortunately, I have kind of destroyed my vehicle, but since my speed is 0, I'll go ahead and repair, which is a good time to do that. You see, the repair action in the game, at sometime during your turn, you'll either repairing all damage, but also reducing your speed to 0, or alternatively, you'll execute your racing. What that means is, let's say my speed were at, 2 over here, let's say hypothetically, then I can choose to simply execute my default speed. Think of it as revving up your vehicle, moving to the next gear, and that will give you a default amount of speed forward. But at a certain point, your vehicle is going to be destroyed enough, or close enough to destroyed, that you'll take a repair action and think of that as rolling into a pit stop, giving up the speed and the initiative and leverage or other words that you have going for you, but at least repairing all your damage so that other players don't walk away while leaving you behind in the dust. That's basically how a round of Megapulse plays out. Except that wasn't really a round. other players are doing their cards, and they're resolving their cards in their order, and they're resolving initiative cards, those little lightning bolt cards, to change the turn order, to change the turn structure, and they're trying to tactically plan around the various things you can do. Let's just take these basic cards and go through them. We already covered the movement sideways and up. We already have the gear shift. We have cyber grid, where you can become first player or become last player and up your speed, so that gives you a little bit of manipulation of the turn order. We have sub focus, which allows you to execute your unique ability. All the players have their own car, which, like I said already, gives you a special action, but they also have their own special ability. Over here, he's the champion, and that means he can execute level 1, 2, or 3, depending on how far back he is from the leader. That's going to be the catch-up mechanic in this game, the idea that the further back you are from someone in the lead, if Red were to execute that card right now, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away from the leader, meaning they can activate their third tier, or, well, second tier of their ability. But the further back you are from the leader, the stronger your catch-up mechanic will be. Then we'll have super bombs. Super bombs are always fun. That's how you drop little bombs on the board, which is especially helpful if we are over there. We drop a bomb behind us, expecting our opponents to walk into them and explode. Bombs will explode, dealing damage to everyone in their lane for 2 damage, and 1 damage to everyone in an adjacent lane, which actually means I probably should try to move away from that bomb before it does take off. And speaking of exploding, you can explode a bomb either by colliding into it, which I certainly hope happens to orange, or alternatively by playing Ultra Fire. Your default shooting mechanism card is going to do damage to anything in front of you, so well within range 5, but you can damage other cars, you can blow up bombs, to damage other cars that are next to the bomb. Right now, Red would do very well by blowing up that bomb. They do a little damage to both blue and orange over there. And then lastly, we have Nitro Speed, which is how you capitalize on your Nitro. You'll slowly be raising your Nitro as you play Nitro Speed, or as you go onto various Nitro pads on the board. And then you can also cash in that Nitro to take a sudden boost forward of up to 4 speed, 4 movement on the board, as you cash in all your Nitro. And we're not done yet. As you pass through these checkpoints over here, you're going to earn these various power-up points that can be spent to buy different upgrade cards that will go into your hand of cards. You see, these cards are available to you every single round. It's not that you play 2 and then they're gone. You play 2, the round's over, you take them right back, and then you can play whatever you want again. And that might feel like, well, then you'll always play your best cards. Joke's on you, there are no best cards. There are situationally best cards. There's thinking through what your opponent will do and thinking through how you'll react to it. And your opponent's probably playing a bomb, so maybe you want to play that little fire thing so you can blow up the bomb in front of you. But maybe they won't play a bomb. Maybe they're racing forward. Maybe it's time to play your catch-up mechanic, because that will be able to push you forward. It's not about what cards are the best. It's about what cards are situationally the best for you at any point in time. And then cashing in your upgrade tokens to buy more cards. You'll notice there's 2 kinds of cards there. There are basic cards that will be added to your hand, and you can utilize them as needed. Sometimes they have a cost in terms of giving up another card in order to get it. And then there's these cards, which are my personal favorite, because these are your tableau building in the game. Your first upgrade point can be used to slot one of these into the left side of your board. The second upgrade point can be used to move it over to the right side of your board, giving you a more powerful ability that is permanently in play that will give you some version of something. Maybe you can pass through walls. Maybe you can, when you take too much damage, you can earn Nitro. There's a whole bunch of different options on the table, but that lets you power up and level up your cards as you go through the game. Pass through checkpoint 1, pass through checkpoint 2, back to the start, rinse and repeat. Let's say a 2-lap game. You'll have a few cards, a few power-ups, a whole lot of missiles and bombs thrown at your opponents, and that, in a nutshell, is Megapulse. Fast and frenetic, furious racing game of racing and stuff. This is the 3rd time this review that I've used the word like stuff when I couldn't think of another word, but that is what it is. In any case, time for the review part of what I liked, didn't like, and can see others not liking about this game. And to begin with, and I'm going to start with this one because you may find this to be an eyesore, I will say I like the board. I like the art of the game. And I'm saying that as somebody who the first time I saw this, I was like, that looks like an eyesore. But then as I played it, it really fits the theme of the game. And they have this flavor text of these multiple universes all colliding, and we are in this infinite blah blah blah. They have a whole world built around this game, and the idea of it is actually pretty interesting, completely unrelated to the game you're playing. But that said, the general neon overload that's on the board here actually does work for me, at least once I played my first game. The player aid, I love. I'm going to give you major props over here for the player aid. This little player aid that goes on the bottom of your player boards, on your boards over here, let's put that on the camera so you can actually see it, is going to fit on the bottom of your board and can be flipped over. That little strip over there gives you all the information you need, both about general turn structure, which is like, 4 sentences, and then anything else that might come up. What happens when your card dies? What happens when damage is dealt? What happens to super bombs? How do the various boosts on the board all act? Everything you could possibly want or need is contained on this player aid. I say everything. I'm pretty sure I mean it. I think I've referenced the rulebook. I don't really remember, but this has basically everything you'll need until you reference the rulebook because you want to see if they say more about the thing, but they really don't, so the player aid was everything you need. And the game incentivizes that fast and furious nature. First of all, from the way you collide into others, whenever you collide into an opponent, you knock them to the side, you choose which side if there's an option, and then they take a point of damage. You don't. I love the fact that the game incentivizes those collisions. It gives you a reason to knock into people, to knock them into walls, to knock them into each other's, to knock them into bombs. Maybe I specifically want to knock someone into a launch pad that will push them two moves forward into the bomb that blue just dropped. And then those bombs on the board. Blue is going to be dropping bombs. We're all going to be dropping bombs because especially whether you're ahead, if you're ahead, you want to drop bombs to stop the people behind you. And if you're behind, you want to drop bombs because there's going to be a separate lap and giving someone something else to worry about when they're currently in the lead. That's a great way to slow them down just to drop. And so those bombs are going to be fun. The very shooting of your, missiles and stuff is going to be fun, as well as just straight up knocking into each other. The game is fast and punchy and it works. The action phase of playing down cards is part of the strategy of the game. It's the entire strategy of the game. But you'll have your hand of cards and you're trying to think not just what's good for you, but where are you in turn order? Who's likely to play what card? How can you react or adjust to what you think they'll do, which may be a completely unnecessary reaction because they're going to do something entirely different anyway. But you're trying to outthink your opponents. You're trying to outplan your opponents as you figure out which two cards are right for you this round, which two cards are either the best given a particular way others play cards, or which two cards are the safest because you can't guarantee what others are going to do. You're going to have to pick those options multiple times, and you're doing that on an infinite amount of replayability, near infinite I should say, but because we have two different things leading to the infinite replayability. One is the maps. The maps are, that's the infinite part. It's not actually infinite. I'm sure there's a calculation. You're not going to play that many maps. There are a ton of maps. There are multiple different game modes, as well as the fact that you can build and construct your own maps with a chunk of map tiles. That's plenty there. There's also the power-ups. The power-ups are a huge part of the game for me. Both the tableau building, which admittedly is my favorite way to get power-ups, gathering a card that I can then slot into my player board that then levels me up every single round, and not just the rounds I choose to play that card. That's the best. But then you have other cards that will generally go into your hand and be utilized. You'll have doubly powerful one-time use cards that can go into your hand and be cashed in for some major effect at the relevant point in time that it's useful. The cards are a huge part of the game and a huge reason to dive back in every single time. Because yes, you have your particular card with one card that's different, not that different. You have your racers, which give you a very strongly different ability depending on, how far back you are and all that. Then you have the different maps, the different play modes, and the different cards, giving you a widely varied experience as you play through Megapulse. And that's basically what I like about the game. As far as what I don't like about the game, first of all, is at 4 players, this game can drag. Now, granted, I have not played this game at 4 players with 4 people who have all played the game 3 or 4 times. And so it could well be, because I could say for this much, I've played the game the most in my game group because I've played it with multiple different people in different areas of game groups, and so I definitely have sped up at this game. For the most part, my turns are fairly quick, with the occasional exception that my game group members definitely make fun of me for, but I definitely have quicker turns than other people playing this game, and I'm curious how that plays out when you have 3 or 4 people who are playing this a lot. But I will say, as of right now, my preferred play count is 3 for this game. 2, you're going to flip the maps. You'll have a few less lanes, giving you a little more competition. 2 players is fine. 3 players is the best experience I've had so far. And 4 is good, but is a little slow. Again, with the caveat, I haven't played it with people who have played this game 3 or 4 times each. And so that does make it a little harder to judge over there. But that is worth noting that at 4 players, I felt like I'd rather just be playing this at 3. And then secondly, the genre of quick and punchy yet strategic has always been a difficult spot for me in general, because this game offers a lot of tactical choice. There are a lot of decisions to be made as you choose which cards to play. But then there's the luck. There's the luck of what other players are going to do. And sure, there's a thought process of thinking through what they do, but you won't always be able to get that right. And so sometimes things just won't work out well for you. The combination of what other players do, in what order they do it, whether they target you, will take away from your feeling of being able to get ahead. And then there's the catch-up mechanic in the game, which is part of that. The catch-up mechanic keeps people involved, which is important because dropping bombs by yourself, shooting missiles into thin air isn't fun. Colliding into others and smashing people with rockets and bombs left, right, and center, that adds to the fun of the game, but that also means you kind of need to keep people in the game. And the catch-up mechanics do a great job doing that, but that takes away from some of the strategic victory you have in the game. You're like, look how well I played, but hey, that guy I just blew up is still a space behind me because the catch-up mechanic and because you both ganged up on me. I find the general genre of strategy plus in-your-faceness is a little harder for me to absolutely love, because it's not a party game, but it also has more handicaps than I'd expect from a typical strategy game, and so it finds itself in this little mid-weight area where I enjoy the experience, but it's a little trickier as to when it gets pulled out and played. As far as what I can see others not liking, I'll start with what I mentioned at the beginning, which is the color scheme. I've heard multiple people, and again, including myself before I actually played it, look at this a little bit like it might be a visual eyesore. The sheer degree of neon everything here is charming once you get to know the game, but might be a bit of a turn off before you have that chance. And then secondly is, and this goes back to the strategy aspect, playing perfectly isn't always enough. You may have the perfect turn, you may plan it out perfectly, you may do exactly what you're supposed to do, and things won't work out in your favor because of what other players did, because of those catch-up mechanics. And so if you feel you need to always be in control, master of your own destiny and all that, I don't think this game will be right for you. Mistakes can cost you a lot at the same time. That specific aspect of those catch-up mechanics means a single mistake can potentially result in the person who was in last place, who is merely like 6 spaces behind you, suddenly can catch up and overtake you because of a single mistake. And so if you think playing well the whole game and then, while having a single bad round is enough to have you losing, if that might be frustrating for you, then that might be a problem for you. In general, I think most of my complaints, both on what I don't like and what I can see others not liking, do come down to the catch-up mechanic, but I'm not advocating it be changed. This is the tricky part of the game, because if you take away the catch-up mechanic, if you resulted in players who are doing poorly just falling behind, it would make it so that you'd win more often when you play well. It would also make the entire experience less fun, because this is a racing game about smashing into each other and blowing each other up, and if you don't do that, it's just a game about dryly playing cars until someone crosses the finish line. So that inherent nature of why the game is fun has the trade-off as to taking away a little bit from the strategy of the game. As far as final thoughts on this game, this one is a fun one. I've really been enjoying Megapulse, and it's a tricky spot because, like I said at the beginning, I've been playing a lot of these racing fighting games recently. What do you call it? Tiny Turbo Cars, Megapulse, Death Roads All-Stars. They've all been crossing my plate, and they've all offered very different and yet very enjoyable ways of approaching the same exact genre. If I had to pick one of those, I don't know which one I'd pick right now. I'd have to think through the various aspects of the gameplay, what they provide, but I will say they all feel different, while all also hitting that spot that I'm still not perfectly sure about. That spot of playing strategically and yet not feeling like you're a master of your own destiny. Overall, I really recommend Megapulse. I really enjoy this one. This one is a 4 to 5 my rating scale. It's a game I really enjoy, but that aspect of not feeling in complete control does heavily take away from how much I think I would otherwise enjoy this one. Overall, that's Megapulse, a game currently on Kickstarter, like I said already, prototype and all of that, and link to the description in the link to the Kickstarter in the description down below. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one.